It's officially March Madness, folks. Welcome to
No,
the Son of
no.
Hearsay
That's
Maize.
incorrect. How is it March Madness?
It is March Madness.
It's March.
It's March. It's the first week of March.
March
It's
Madness
here.
refers to like the basketball.
Yeah, it's here, baby. It's here. You got the conference tournaments coming up next weekend. Just a couple games left in the regular season.
Michigan doesn't play Purdue until Sunday, or Minnesota until Sunday. There's much regular season basketball.
It's still, you got to feel the madness, Danny. Anytime March 1st hits, bam, it's there. It's there. Wolves Sports Director Danny Sass on your right.
I feel like it's like the 10th or 11th that March Madness officially starts.
Chris Cichon on your left, and Danny.
I don't know. We'll agree to disagree.
We'll keep talking about basketball because, it's March Madness. That's why we're going to start talking about it. First,
it's not March Madness.
It is. That's the first thing on the rundown. Danny, you go ahead and say Maize. I'm going to say Blue is, and I do not think Michigan's win over the Duke Blue Devils back in November is enough to guarantee them a spot in this year's big dance. What do you think?
Chris, I completely agree with you. You can go ahead and say Blue. I'm going to say Maize, and I'm not going to pull out any weapons, no guns, no knives.
Please.
Remember the Maize mob.
Had me worried.
We're
now.
strictly fans of the men's tennis team.
Very good.
Fear not. Switching gears away from tennis and my shirts. We talked about my shirt last week too, which is ironic. I guess it's just because I'm really well dressed and good looking.
Probably.
That leads to a lot of topics such as that. We're going to talk basketball to kick things off. I still don't think it's March Madness time. March Madness refers to the tournament as far as I'm concerned, and the question is, will Michigan get into that tournament?
You know what? I say no. Right now, they're out. They have one game left at Minnesota. We found out this past weekend they still can't beat Wisconsin. We saw that early in January, and they still couldn't do it on the road. They did have the big upset win against Purdue. We were all back on spring break. I don't know how many people saw that, but that was a pretty big win. Harris and Sims were just dominant, and you see that this team basically goes as they go.
That's the problem, though.
What?
I mean,
What's
that
the
they
problem?
go as they go. I mean, the team goes as Harris and Sims go, and that's a huge problem.
Nobody else.
Even in the win, Chris, Sims has 29. Harris has 27. No one else dropped more than 7 points.
Nope.
You need a third scorer to consistently step up, because when a team like Wisconsin can keep Sims, can keep Harris relatively under wraps, 17 for Sims, 15 for Harris, no one else stepped up.
Yeah,
no one in
simple
double
as
figures.
that.
These two every game.
They're 18-12 right now. They're sitting at 8-9 in the conference, and so if you're under 500 in the conference, your chances of getting in the big dance are usually pretty shaky. And they got the Minnesota. They lost to them before at home.
Well, that's essentially their season, yes? Minnesota?
Well, no, I think if they, Actually, it is, because both there's 5 teams in the Big Ten on the bubble. Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio State, Penn State. If Minnesota, whoever wins that game, it's basically an elimination game almost. Yep. So if Minnesota loses, they're out. Michigan loses, they're out. But then even so, the other team, whoever wins, they have to perform well in the Big Ten tournament. Right. Michigan, I think, has to beat Minnesota, get at least 2 wins in the Big Ten tournament, and then I think they're a solid lock. The win against Purdue was huge because I got them a lot closer. But still, you look at teams like Ohio State. Ohio State beat Michigan twice.
And so did Wisconsin now.
And so did Wisconsin. So
those teams have a legitimate edge now over Michigan.
I think they definitely have the edge.
That's going to be a problem, I think, going down the stretch. The thing that just upsets me right now is that Michigan hasn't really done anything on the road.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
At the teams they've beaten.
14-3 at home is very good.
It's just not going to get it done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, take it as you can get it. Last year, remember how horrible they were. I
know. I mean, but still, for where this team was sitting after UCLA, after Duke, really high hopes, and they just haven't gotten it. It just shows they're probably about a year away. Losing to Iowa is just not acceptable when you're playing must-win basketball.
They needed that one for sure. It just shows they're about a year away. Danny, we'll keep it on campus. Another big-time team here moving into the postseason. The Michigan hockey team just finished up the regular season with a sweep, home-and-home series against Ferris State, and the Bulldogs outscored them 10-1. It was really pretty dominant. You saw the return of Mark Mateer to the defensive line there in that Friday night game, and then Billy Sauer had a shutout on senior night at Saturday at Yost Dice Arena. So the team's got a week off now. What are they doing this week off? Just play video games at home? Or?
Relaxing, getting ready. I mean, they don't know who they're going to play yet. So sit at home. It could be anybody. I believe they reseed.
Yeah, they're going to play.
Teams come in.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Kind of confusing.
In the CCHA. And I mean, it's a home series. I think they'll be relaxed. This team has been fairly dominant at Yost all season long. I think, as you mentioned, the return of Mark Mateer, making sure that this guy is fully healthy for the playoffs. He's a senior, he's a captain, he's a stalwart on that defense, and he's going to need to be there and be active every single game.
He's the returning.
He came back with a goal and an assist, and just having someone like that, having a veteran, you have a young goalie in net, and goaltending has been a problem for this team throughout the playoffs the last 2 years. Having a young goalie in net, having a young defense, is a fairly young team. Just having a guy like Mateer back there, just to bring that sense of calm upon everybody.
Psychologically, I think.
Very, very important.
To see the big guy in the locker room. I mean, the guy's probably the biggest guy on the team, 6'2", 220.
But I'd say right now they're in a good shape.
Yeah, and plus, he's the returning CCHA Defenseman of the Year from last year, so he's got credibility there. The goal and the assist that you mentioned. Here's the thing I'm looking at. This team has only lost 3 games since the start of December. December. This is one of the hottest teams in the country. They're ranked 3rd in the country right now. This team is hot. Nobody wants to play Michigan.
No, not at all.
That includes Notre Dame. They found that out on their home ice, even though they came back and beat Michigan here. But nobody wants to face Michigan right now.
Yeah,
They're very hot.
whether
they have the experience. They went to the Frozen Four last year. They're young, like you said. They have the scoring power with Caparuso, Belushi. It goes on, and they got the
right now. The way this team is sitting right now, they're 3rd in the nation according to the USCHO polls, and they should be seeded. So you look at the way the NCAA tournament pairings work. Michigan should have what's going to essentially amount to a home CCHA tournament in the Joe in Detroit,
right.
And then what should be a home little pod there in the NCAAs is they'll be playing in Grand Rapids if everything goes according to plan.
Right.
So let's hope for this team shouldn't have to leave the state until they go to DC for the Frozen Four if everything works out accordingly, and we know that this team can be dominant in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, keep going. We're going to talk more hockey in the main event coming up in a few minutes, so to stay tuned for that. Continuing, Danny, moving on to the professional ranks of football. In the NFL, it's the off-season. Start of March here. We're moving into training camps, but a lot of off-season activity happening, transactions, releases, signings, trades. What sticks out to you? What's the best and the worst so far?
The biggest deal so far is the Hainsworth deal. I mean, taking who's arguably the best defensive player in the league, a player who essentially made the Tennessee Titans defense
last year,
as fearful and formidable as it was. For him to go to the Redskins, and that's a damn good division there, that NFC East. I mean, you look at the power horse back in Brandon Jacobs, a power horse back in Marion Barber, and a very good little shifty back in Brian Westbrook. Those are 3 very good running backs. And for the Redskins to now have someone on that defensive line to get in those backfields, to mess up those running games, and to force, whether it's the Giants or the Cowboys or the Eagles, to force those offenses 6 games a year to just do something a little bit differently. I mean, this could really be the breakthrough that the Redskins need to be competitive at the top of that NFC East.
Well, and then they also signed D'Angelo Hall, the cornerback, releasing
Jason Taylor to free up the cap.
A little bit overpriced for his age. He didn't want to work out anymore. How about TJ Hushmanzada, Haja Badilla, whatever his name is, going to Seattle.
Hushmanzada.
Whatever you want to call him. How about the Jay Cutler situation there in Denver?
I think he's out.
You think he's out? I mean, he sounds like a baby to me. I mean, it's almost like what Philip Rivers was saying when he called him out as a punk. It's almost being confirmed in this situation.
I don't think Cutler's necessarily a baby. I mean, I understand where he's coming from. The Denver Broncos tried to trade him.
It's a business. So what if you're traded? You might be traded the next hour. You don't know from hour to hour what your situation is in this league.
When you as a team make a commitment to your franchise stud quarterback, a quarterback who, no more than a month ago
But you make that commitment to Jay Cutler?
Oh, yeah.
You make it to Tom Brady. You don't make it to Jay Cutler.
The Broncos. Who else?
You make it to Peyton Manning. You don't make it to Jay Cutler.
Can you name another quarterback on the Broncos roster?
Right.
They have no choice but to make that commitment to Jay Cutler, the way things are sitting right now. And they have essentially pissed off their only asset at the quarterback position. I have a feeling Cutler ends up going somewhere. Take a team who needs a quarterback. Tampa Bay getting rid of Jeff Garcia. They need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Seattle could use a quarterback. There are tons of teams
right now. Hasselbeck.
I think he's done. Career-wise?
No, he's fine. That's why Hushmanzada.
You think he wouldn't love throwing a Hushmanzada? If San Francisco doesn't get Kurt Warner, that could be another location.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, actually. How about the Lions? They got Anthony Henry in a trade with Dallas. They addressing a quarterback need that they have, and then Brian Dawkins going to the Denver Broncos.
And how about 2 big deals? The New York Jets getting a little bit bolstering that defense.
Secondary help.
They had a choice between Bart Scott and Ray Lewis. They took Bart Scott, 5 years younger, a little bit more versatile. Rex Ryan was the defensive coordinator for both of those guys in Baltimore, and taking another piece of that Eagles secondary, Lito Shepherd, 2-time Pro Bowler, still fairly young.
Yeah.
So nice little bolstering of the Jets secondary. Hopefully they can compete against the likes of the Patriots.
A lot of things happening out there. It's only going to continue. A lot of big names still out there.